Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to A.C.E Podcast Nation. I am joined here for another exclusive MMA interview with Cage Warriors Featherweight, Mr. Ben Ellis. Welcome, my friend. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you, mate. Thank you for having me on.
No problem at all. I before we get into, obviously you've got a fight coming up on the Cage Warriors trilogy event, but before we do, I got to ask you about the clip. It went pretty viral of you KOing someone from like half guard. We had a look at it on one of the Danny Batten shows. I can't think who would guess. It might be Mason.
Yeah,
Mason
Mason
Dillon,
likes
if it
that one,
was.
to be fair to him.
We chucked it up on the screen, like, but that was brutal, mate. You don't see many KOs from that position. What was the reaction like afterwards?
Yeah, no, thank you, mate. Mate, to be honest, when it happened live, I honestly didn't think anything of it. Like, it's a position I generate a lot of power from anyway. Um, so when I did it, literally it was water off a duck's back, just happy to get a win and a knockout. And then before I knew it, everyone was going nuts, sending me messages asking how I did it. So yeah, the genuine reaction was just surprise. But to be
Yeah.
honest, I think if I get anybody in that position, think I'm going to do the exact same thing. I can't imagine a body type, or unless they somehow clear the shoulder pressure, the same thing's going to happen.
Yeah, it's got to be cool though, like because like I've seen that clip everywhere now, like on some of the biggest MMA sites in the world on their social media and stuff. So that's got to be kind of cool to see that, especially coming in to this fight now on like it's the first Cage Warriors event in a feels like forever, but obviously the last one was when was it? I can't even remember what month it
Oh,
was,
it'd be
March or
March, I
something, wasn't
think.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when Mason won the title, so like,
Mm.
are you all ready for that now?
What's that? Sorry, the
The
upcoming
next
event.
one now, yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, I was booked in March. Um, when it all started and that got cancelled. So I've literally been ready since March.
Mm.
That got cancelled 2 weeks prior. I didn't have an opponent because my opponent pulled out, so they were trying to match me with whoever, and then the
Yeah.
whole thing just sort of went to pot. So the event got cancelled, and then I just got in touch with my coaches, being like, look, with the gyms closing and stuff, I can go about it two ways where I can just bum around and feel sorry for myself, or really push on. So I went for that, and pretty much where I was training the whole time. Um, and then when we got made aware of this fight, I went into what you'd call a fight camp, but in reality, I was just doing the exact same stuff.
So you're staying ready all through lockdown because I obviously like I've spoken to a few various different fighters of different backgrounds, different areas of the country, different training regimes, coaches, etc. Some are lucky enough they got a gym at home. Some are lucky enough that their parents may be part of their team, so they
Yeah,
can do a lot of training if they, from home and stuff. How did you find training during that lockdown period?
I'm one of the lucky ones. My parents have a gym, so I'd go over to their house, use their gym, and then my brother trains as well, so I train with him.
Very
So
lucky,
yeah, I
that
was
isn't it?
I
It's
was
real
definitely one of the
fortunate, like.
lucky ones. And he's my younger brother as well, so any chance to swing at me, he's gonna take it. So that's probably the hardest sparring I've had in a while.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Brothers are always like that, and they'll go for a hell for
Yeah.
leather for a few rounds. Um, so, will you have much weight to cut now in a couple of weeks? That last week?
Not too much. I'm pretty on top of it. Like I'll be over 160 in the cage.
Hmm.
Like it varies how much over. Probably like 163, something like
What
that.
what do you normally walk around at when like in between fights and that?
Between 165 and 170. Um, like pretty lean as well.
Hmm.
You'll never see me out of shape just because I do. I literally train all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I can get down easy enough. It doesn't kill me.
Do you like obviously like with weight cuts, it's different for each person, and do you find the weight cut hard or is it relatively easy like that final week?
To be honest, I borderline enjoy it. It's it's one of those things where like,
Sadist.
yeah, in a weird way, it's like it's just suffering. It just puts you in like I'm in a combat state of mind anyway.
Yeah.
Like for the last probably 2 months, I've been in the mood for a fight. But then that week when you're hungry and you're thirsty, and then like when you see other people eating and drinking, and they have no idea what you're going through, it puts you in that mindset where you're so focused yeah, I do. I borderline enjoy it, but the weight comes off all right. Apparently, people who have a bit more muscle mass, muscle holds water, so it comes out a lot easier than
Yeah.
like say like a long skinny body type. So yeah, it comes off pretty quick.
So, do you know you familiar with your opponent, like really, or do you
Yeah,
know a little bit about him?
I know quite a bit about him. He fought Aiden James at amateur.
Yeah.
Aiden's a friend of mine. He trains in Chris Reese Academy. So I knew of him from that when Aiden beat him. And then when he went pro, when I went pro, I'm one of those guys who watches all MMA events. So I've
Well, I
been
was going
watching
to
the
say
Cage.
actually because obviously you're on the Danny Batten show this week, and I text you Sunday morning and said, "Oh, we're going to talk about the Bellator fights as well," and kind of sent you the list, and you were like, "Oh yeah, I've seen them already."
Yeah,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ.
Seen
So
what I do. I seen the ones on Friday night, Saturday night, and then obviously the UFC today as well. I watch them all. But like my brother hates watching fights with me because like he wants to see a dust up, and I pretty much always watch them with him.
yeah,
But I'm watching them like from an analysis point of view.
yeah.
So like for example, if someone ends up first position that comes off, mate, I seen them. I forget the guy's name. Someone was shooting it's Herman. He was shooting a head inside single, and then I think it was Rodriguez started landing those elbows that Travis Brown got famous for. So like, I'll watch that and I'll pick that, and then the next time I see a different move from head inside, I'll be picking up that. So yeah, I'm watching it with the intention of learning.
Yeah, and I think the thing is, you're always gonna. There's so much MMA on, like TV and streaming services these days. I think almost you're missing a trick. I think if you're not watching as much as you can in between, what the things you got to do, because you can learn. There's so many different guys to learn from, and I think in 2020 it's not just about learning like going to train in a different gym or with different fighters. I think you can learn from watching guys fight on TV or whatever as well.
Well, Wayne Samways runs up the jiu-jitsu at the Mat Academy,
Mm.
and he's literally stopped planning classes, and he just lets me ask what I'm going to ask because he knows I'm going to have something. Like we'll have, say, I don't know, 3 or 4 of the days he'll have a plan of what we're going to do, and then if there's another, say, 3 or 4 sessions, which is primarily not run by the students, but like the students will say where they're struggling or want to work on.
Yeah.
He literally says to anyone, he's like, if you've got anything, speak up quickly because Ben is going to have a list of things, and I always do. But you're right though. I think if you don't have that and you're not thinking about it, somebody else is,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you've
and
got
that's the thing, isn't it? At the end of the day, like I think the end, like anyone in your position, fighters of any level, from starting out now or to already at the top, is the second you kind of stop wanting to be better or stop wanting to learn, the guys behind you will soon take over you. And I
yeah,
think obviously you're coming up now, but when you get to, or even if you ever get to a point where you kind of feel like you've made it or whatever, the guys coming up underneath you will soon dispute that, shall we say?
yeah. That's it. I think it's catch-22 as well. Like when I think of someone like Tyrone Woodley, it's like he's almost got to a point in his career where he's gone from analysing his possible attacks and he thinks about it in reverse to the point where you hardly see him throw now.
Yeah, I
Like
think
the
he's more
reality,
worried. He's more worried about what his opponent's doing than what he's
yeah,
doing. I
that's it.
think
Oh,
there's
sorry, go on.
probably there is a thin line in there between the two, but ultimately there's so much MMA around, you can learn a lot. So I'm going to ask you about some of the Cage Warriors fights in a minute, but before we get on to that, I want to ask you, if I said to you, like you've just said, you watch a shed load of MMA, you watch everything which is on. If I said to you, like, show me your favourite fight of all time now, so we can watch it, what would you show me?
Do you say fight or fighter?
Fight.
Um, I think it would be Henry Cejudo versus DJ,
Okay.
just because I think to date that's the highest level of skill we've seen from
It was incredible, mate.
from both participants at the same time.
But you know, sorry to interrupt you. Do you know what impressed me about that so much was not just the skill level on show, but it was the speed, mate. I know they had like the weight they're quick and they, but like it was the speed of thought and the speed
Yeah,
of executing the skill, and like you say, it was about as good as we've ever seen, all in
yeah,
one
it
place,
was.
like at once.
I can't think of. I mean, obviously, there's some close ones John Jones DC comes to mind. Um, but yeah, I don't think anything rivals that just yet. Just because as well, it wasn't the case of there was one person putting on a display. It was both of them going back and forth. And
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's going to be a little while before we see something top that.
you mentioned Jones and DC. Obviously, we've just seen DC retire recently. Um, are you in the camp of being disappointed that we never got to see a third fight between them, or are you in the camp of John Jones would have beaten him again? I'm quite happy that we didn't see it.
Yeah, the second one. I think after Jones too, I think DC hit a pretty obvious decline.
Yeah.
When so who did he fight after Jones too? It
He
was
fought Stipe twice, didn't he?
Yeah, it
Who
was
did he fight
Ozdemir.
in between?
I think it
Did he
was
fight someone
Ozdemir.
between? I don't know.
It might have been Ozdemir. Anyway, whoever it was, it seemed as if the bad habits he has, like he reaches a lot, like with both hands, and obviously the side that he dips to the right because Jones called the head kick. It seems like rather than becoming less pronounced, they became more pronounced. And yeah, I thought there was such an obvious decline.
Yeah.
Because even when he beat Stipe the first time, I thought Stipe was doing really well in that fight.
Yeah, I thought Stipe was winning, to be honest.
Yeah,
But,
for sure. So did I. Like Dominic Cruz was saying about, he felt like DC was giving Stipe the underhook so he could come back around. And like I know that sequence is what led to him knocking him out. But it's like, yeah, but it also got you put on your ass twice.
yeah.
Even
Yeah,
if you did
there's
pop
that.
straight back up. So yeah, I'm happy. I think Jones would have had him.
Yeah, I do too. Is Jones the GOAT, in your opinion?
No, because of the steroid stuff. I think
Yeah,
that's
so
just
I had an interesting conversation with another Welsh fighter, but I don't think it was on air, so I'm not going to name him just in case.
fair.
Basically, he said because it was kind of proven or it was implied by USADA or Dana White, etc., that it was a mistake. He still classes him as the GOAT, but like I don't know. There's been so much out of the cage stuff with him. I think that's why people find it difficult to say a definitive yes. Like for me, if you just look at it from a purely skill, technical point of view, he is. But
Yeah, I
there's
tell you what
always
though,
going to be
look,
like an asterisk.
the one problem I have with that is like the blatant weakness he has with his boxing.
Yeah.
I think for me, but then again, the flip side is that he's beaten everyone. He literally cleared out light heavyweight cleaner than anyone could ever do it. So that nullifies it quite a bit. But I look at DJ, Cejudo, and I'm like, these guys are so well rounded. I'm struggling to put Jones above them because of
Yeah, I
that
think it's a fair
depth
comment,
in
isn't it?
boxing. But then the
Yeah,
flip
yeah.
side of this is one of the boys said it. It was like, have you seen Game of Thrones with the trial by combat?
I have not seen 1 second of the Game of Thrones ever.
So basically, the concept is if you get accused of something, you can have a trial, but you could
Yeah.
also have a trial by combat where you pick a champion and someone fights for you, and
Right.
if the guy wins, you prove it innocent. And it was like, if you were accused of something and you could pick a champion to fight for you against anyone, who would you pick? And I'm like, I would pick John Jones.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, that's it.
that kind of negates my own argument, you know.
Yeah, that's interesting, that isn't it?
Mm.
But what about like some of the classic fighters from back in the early days of UFC? Is there anyone kind of you look back on, and not necessarily because I think from a technique point of view, the guys, even the lower end fighters in the rankings and outside the rankings these days, would destroy some of those fighters who were in the first few UFC events.
Yeah.
From a technical point of view. But was there anyone who kind of you used to or you've watched back, who you enjoy watching?
Recently it's been Fedor. Like the combination of trips, throws, body locks. Oh, here we go. So yeah, I think that was probably like 2-3 weeks ago. I went on a little Fedor study just because I feel like his level of grappling it would stand to this
Superb,
day.
isn't it?
Yeah, it really was excellent. But when I was watching him, I literally fast forwarded it to those exchanges.
Yeah.
I didn't want to see the bits in between because, like you say, the skill level has moved on quite a bit. And then when I think about going back and watching certain old school fights, that's the problem I have. It's like, well, the skills level has moved on now, and because I feel like I probably can't learn as much from that as all I can from watching something modern day, I tend to stick to the modern day stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. Like, to be honest with you, I watched a lot of those old earlier ones when I was like a teenager. When they were out on, I used to watch them on video with my mate.
Yeah.
It was like the only person he introduced me to UFC, like, and he was the only person I know who was watching it back then, and he was like into martial arts and stuff himself, and yeah, like I think the only reason I'm a bit more familiar with it now because my memory wouldn't remember back then is me and Danny where we had like a break in shows. We started reviewing them from the first one onwards,
Oh,
and
okay,
like
yeah, that's a good idea.
watching like those first couple, it was like, oh, come
Oh,
on.
they were nuts, weren't they?
Yeah, just crazy. Like groin shots, headbutts. It was like, wow, they wouldn't have been able to keep it like this forever. They had to
Yeah,
clean it up a bit to go mainstream,
yeah,
and get the attention and the name brands and for the sport as that's this got now.
yeah.
You mentioned Fedor. Been rumored that Brock Lesnar is going to have a fight now that he's out of his WWE contract for now, um, and his rumored opponents would either be Fedor in Bellator or John Jones in the UFC.
Oh,
Would you would you like to see either of those?
mm, John Jones would smash him, so I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I said this the other day. John Jones would
Yeah.
absolutely annihilate him.
It wouldn't be close. Like I struggle with Brock because of that whole fiasco. You know when DC won the title and he got in the cage.
Yeah.
Like it's from a money making business point of view, it's really clever marketing. But it's like, mate, this isn't the WWE. Don't come in here trying to act like it's a reality TV show because it's
But
not.
do you not think that was planned
Yeah, I
between the
did.
two of them?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Because DC is I love DC. I think he's the best. One of him and Bisping and him and Dan Hardy are my favorite analysts actually. But DC, he's a massive wrestling fan, like, and he goes to all the events all the time, and he's really good friends with Brock. And
Yeah,
I just, as soon as they said, "Oh, Brock Lesnar's coming in the cage," or he called him in, or whatever, I was like, "Something will happen now." I said to my
yeah,
wife, like, "Something will happen now." Whether they have like a little shove and exchange, or there'll be like they'll go nose to nose. Someone will do something, and then they'll be broken up by like 20
yeah.
people or whatever. It
That's
was
it.
predictable.
Because even if they were never going to fight, which obviously they didn't, Brock would generate a lot of viewers who might not know who DC is anyway. So the next time he
Yeah.
fights, as it was Stipe 2, maybe that generates a lot more views. But yeah, I struggled with the whole thing.
Yeah, I can see that. I can
Yeah,
see why.
Brock comes in and out of the sport. It's like, mate, just stay away. And
Make up your mind.
yeah, and Fedor's long past it now. I know he's still
Yeah,
fights, but
I think the problem for me with Brock is, well, there's like two sides to it. For me, um, I'm not really interested in seeing him fight 3 to 5 rounds, just trying to take someone to the ground and then lay on top of them. Now, that's not to negate that type of fight or that type of skill from a fighter, but at 40 years old or whatever he is, like Brock Lesnar is just literally gonna try and do that for 3 rounds because
yeah,
he's never been the
100%.
strongest striker. So that his skills haven't got any better from
No,
when he was younger and faster, and he's a freak, mate. Do you know, like, for
yeah,
someone his size to be able to move as quick as he can and stuff, but like that hasn't got quicker as he's got
no, it
older.
hasn't. And like I say, we've seen him get smashed now. Like, well, Kane smashed him, Overeem
Yeah,
smashed him. I'm a little bit like, we all know
but
what.
on
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt you again, though,
okay.
mate. On the other side is he sells more pay-per-views than anybody outside of McGregor and John
Yeah,
Jones. So from a UFC point of view, every time he only ever signs like a year contract with WWE because he knows that when that year's up, he plays them both against each other, sees who pays him the most money, and then goes back, and he does it every year.
yeah,
Um, as a businessman, you can't fault him. But
No, it's
I can
clever.
see why wrestling fans and MMA fans get a bit fed up with him.
Yeah. I just feel like we've seen what we needed to see now. Like, if he fights someone like a Randy Couture, who was really reliant on a clinch style wrestling approach, his natural or unnatural, whatever you want to say about him, his physical gifts, like, it'll negate the skill level. But anybody who can move and strike a little bit, they're going to smash him.
Well, an example of that, I suppose, would be John Jones. Now, the last couple of fights Jones has had, I've thought he's not looked as impressive as he had previously, but he still won pretty comfortably in both cases. I think one fight was quite close.
Yeah, I thought he won them both.
But I think there was, which one was it? One of the last one, wasn't it?
Reyes.
Or was it the one before? Reyes, yeah.
Yeah, Reyes.
I thought that was close, but I thought he won.
Yeah, 3-2, that's what I had it as well.
But if you put him in there against Lesnar, like the build-up would be awesome. The promo work would be awesome. The video montages they put together would be awesome. Everything would be awesome about it. But the minute that fight started, John Jones is just going to chop his legs away, stay out of range, and school him. And I don't know if I want to see that. Like, as much as a spectacle as the build-up will be, like, there's other fights I'd rather, like, there's other super fights I'd rather see. I'd rather see McGregor Khabib 2 than I would Lesnar versus John Jones.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Here's a question for you. I just thought on the fly. Who would have more chance of winning? Lesnar beating John Jones or McGregor beating Khabib?
McGregor beating Khabib. But I'm not a McGregor fan, I'll be honest.
That's what I thought that from the conversation we were just having before we started. So I wanted to see which way you thought those two fights.
Yeah, like I think Lesnar beating Jones is probably 98-2 in Jones's favour, whereas McGregor Khabib's probably 80-20 in Khabib's favour.
Yeah, for sure. I would not disagree. Okay, mate. All right. I appreciate you joining me. It's been a good chat, and I could chat to you for a long time. Luckily, we're going to go and record the Danny Batten show now, so that's going to be good stuff. Ben Ellis versus Kingsley Crawford, Cage Warriors 115, 7:30 p.m. on UFC Fight Pass, and it's the Friday, September the 25th, isn't it? You're on the Friday.
That's Friday, yeah.
Awesome. Tell the people where they can find you on social media and stuff.
So Instagram is at Ben Ellis MMA, and I think Twitter is the same. Facebook's just Ben Ellis.
Top man. Ben, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Yeah,
guys, subscribe, youtube.com/A.C.E Podcast Nation. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook alike. And we'll have more exclusive MMA content as well as podcasts on all sorts of subjects coming at you very soon. In the meantime, we'll see you next time.